Oh, 70s TV shows. Let's see. There was what did I watch? My mom watched a lot of Little House on the Prairie, so I know way more about that show than
Oh my God.
any 39-year-old man
Every
really ought
time
to.
the intro, yeah, anytime that intro came on, it was like a race to see how fast I could switch that channel.
Get ready to pity the fools, because this is episode 90 of the Lasercomb Podcast, the show where we comb through random episodes of classic TV with a fine-tooth laser. I am, as always, The Siege, one of your hosts, brother.
And I'm your other heavily medicated host, brother, the NeoCal.
And that medication is the roids, dude. We're getting jacked over here, brother.
By medication, I mean the roid. Or what do they call it? What's the drug name for it?
Oh, I have no idea.
Street
My drug knowledge is limited to like illicit like street drugs and not things that are, gonna make you ripped.
I don't know, the juice.
In fact,
The juice
the drugs that I'm familiar with will
do the opposite.
Will do the opposite. Yeah.
But you'll be shredded because it eats your body fat first, right?
Yeah, you'll be very toned, but that's about it.
Every heroin addict I've seen out on the street, they got fucking washboard abs, brother.
Same with meth.
Whether they want to, yeah. Oh
Same
yeah,
with
it
meth.
eats your.
It eats your body mass, so you end up, and it makes your skin tighten, so you end up like you see a lot
it
of
does.
meth heads. They'll actually be like quite toned looking.
Oh yeah, and it's just like, oh man, what does that guy do? Nothing but drug.
But then you look at his face and you see like the sunken in eyes and like the almost like marionette looking like mouth that they have, and then
That is a good this marionette mouth.
yeah.
That's a good description.
And if they're really hardcore, they'll have like scabs all over them.
Yeah, only if you're really hardcore. None of these filthy casual meth addicts.
Anyway, this week on the Lasercomb Podcast, we are doing something for us. We've been doing Patreon picks for a while, but I think for the
We
next
decided to treat ourselves.
we decided to treat ourselves, and I think we're
Right.
gonna keep doing that for the next few episodes at least. We'll get back to the Patreon
Basically,
picks.
fuck all y'all patron. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Uh-oh, my fake mustache disappeared for a sec. I mean,
Oh, no.
real mustache. I grew it out just for the show.
I just noticed that we are oddly kind of color coordinated this week.
Oh, that's right. We are.
I'm even also wearing a tank top.
Tank Top Brothers. I love this shirt. There's two shirts that I really like. One is the tie-dye Too Much Energon shirt you gave me, and the other one's like this.
Be excellent to each other.
Yeah.
Good life advice.
It is. In fact, that's our only rule in the Discord.
Yep, pretty much.
Yeah.
And so far, we haven't had any problems with people not being excellent. So that's
So
pretty
far,
good.
so good.
So far, so good. Yeah. So as I mentioned, we're pitying the fools, and we're training hard. We're saying our prayers. We're eating our vitamins, because this week we are reviewing the 69th episode of a show that I absolutely adored when I was younger, The A-Team.
In 1972, a crack commando unit was sent to prison by a military court for a crime they didn't commit. These men promptly escaped from a maximum security stockade to the Los Angeles underground. Today, still wanted by the government, they survive as soldiers of fortune. If you have a problem, if no one else can help, and if you can find them, maybe you can hire the A-Team.
theme. That's right.
I
Do
can't.
do 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 do. Even if you didn't watch the show, we had talked about it off air. Even if you don't watch the show, like I don't think there's a single millennial who like doesn't immediately recognize the theme song.
Do 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 do. Don't need to mouth it too long because the listeners would have heard the theme just before we were talking.
The magic of editing.
I know that, right? One of the great, absolute great TV themes. Top 10, I would argue,
Yeah, top 10
of all time. So, on the last episode of the Lazor podcast, we put the A Team through the old random number generator, and we landed on episode 68. And
But you know what, brother? We said that's bullshit.
off air, I noticed that episode 69, nice, featured Hulk Hogan. And I'm like, I feel like we should just talk about that one instead.
You know what? New rule. It's called it's called the Neo rule. We're allowed to slide up our choice, up or down one, if it means we think we're going to get something better. I'm saying it right here, right now.
We'll what do we call it? We'll call it the Joker card rule or the wild card rule.
We'll call it the slip and slide.
Hey, I just had a thought.
Hit me.
And patrons, let us know if this is something you'd be interested in. Maybe for a higher tier on the Lazorcomb Patreon, you can pick the episode. Now that would
because
be
what are the tiers right now?
There's a $5, 10, and $20 tier. The $10 tier doesn't really have anything like special, like kind of associated with it.
So maybe
the $10 tier, you not only get to pick the show, but you get to pick the episode. Or you could do that, or you could pick the episode number, and then we pick the show. I don't know. I'm just spitballing.
We'll figure something out.
Patrons, let us know.
What was it we've landed on episode 1 that I really liked? Was it Preacher?
Preacher, yeah.
I should actually watch that. I remember that first episode being like, but
so far the only show out of the now 89 shows that we have reviewed on this podcast, so far the only one where I have actually gone and watched the whole thing was Ash vs. Evil Dead.
Right.
Which I really enjoy that show. I might actually watch it again. Who knows?
I should give it a chance. The one we had watched like kind of got me like interested.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff in that episode that I was completely perplexed by. Both of us were, but like watching the show from the beginning, like it actually like it all made sense.
Oh yeah, of course. The writing's just good. Man, speaking of the writing being good, this episode of A-Team, I'm a little shocked. By the way, the show knows what it is. You know what? Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. Maybe let's.
And speaking of the show knowing what it is, one thing that actually kind of surprised me, this show is quite wholesome. Like weirdly, like
yeah, but like in
wholesome.
a way I really dig. Hey, Dickie's like a sister to me. Brother.
So we had landed on episode 68, which was I can't remember the name of the episode. Rock and roll ain't noise pollution or something like that.
But you noticed that the Hulkster was in episode 69.
Speaking of the Hulkster, we should review an episode of The Incredible Hulk.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think for the next handful of episodes, we're just gonna stick with you know what? We're gonna stick with 70s/80s shows that have hype theme songs. That'll be the theme.
That's our theme.
But anyway, episode 68. Full disclosure, I actually did watch both of them.
Yeah. You have them.
Cal did not. He just watched episode 69, Body Slam. But I did watch episode 68, and in fact told Cal, you don't need to.
Yeah,
Watch
he was
episode
like,
69. It's the better of the two
it was about
episodes.
letting someone go so that they could like pin something on.
So the gist of episode 68. So this is going to be a mini review here.
Yeah, like 60-second go.
Yeah, the gist of episode 68 of the A Team, The Heart of Rock and Roll, features Rick James as himself hiring the A Team because his buddy Isaac Hayes, not as himself, is about to get out of prison. And Rick James is worried about him because because Isaac Hayes isn't like really excited about like actually getting out of prison. And what it turns out it's this really convoluted scheme by the prison warden to release Isaac Hayes and force him to rob a bank so he can collect the winnings and then put Isaac Hayes back in jail. That's episode 68. And yeah, I watched it and I was like, oh, okay, cool.
But you know what was a gem? Body Slam.
Episode 69, nice. Body Slam, which originally aired on November 12th, 1985. I was just a wee baby.
Wee baby. Let me tell you the
No.
premise of the A Team, brother. Basically, was it during Vietnam or was it? How were they set up? Like, how were they? Basically, these group of fantastical men were framed or set up for something that they did not do.
Let me tell you the plot here.
He's going to give you the better rundown from my.
In 1972, a crack command unit was sent to prison by a military court for a crime they didn't commit.
The intro.
These men promptly escaped from a maximum security stockade to the Los Angeles underground. Today, still wanted by the government, they survive as soldiers of fortune. If you have a problem, if no one else can help, and if you can find them, maybe you can hire the A-Team.
And if you can afford them.
Do, 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 do.
There you go. It tells you everything you need to know in the intro.
It really does.
Yeah. So basically, they work outside the law. The law's always after them.
Which,
And you have all these specialists, which we'll get into.
yeah, Mr. T, B.A. Baracus, does something very dubious early on in the episode. If you're keeping the fact that they are wanted men on the run,
Highly militarily
like
wanted.
Colonel Decker is like on their trail at all times. So if you keep that in the back, like in your mind at all times, they make some very questionable choices. Like getting in the ring in like a big like WWF like event.
So for some reason, I think it's not Face Man. Who's pretending to be a peanut salesman who's scouting the crowd? That we start in a WWF match.
Yeah, that's I think it's Face Man, yeah.
Oh, is it Face Man? Yeah. And he comes over and he's like, so far so good. What I don't think we should be given our circumstance, good writing. If this is your first episode, it's telling you, hey, Baseman comes over and tells, I think it's like Hannibal and BA, maybe we shouldn't have got side tickets, given that we're wanted
yeah,
criminals. Right? And so not only is Mr. T there like cheering him on, he ends up getting up, picking up Hulk's like championship belt and like being his hype man on the side of the ring. And then after Hulkster wins, he gets in the fucking ring with him and like lifts his hand and like holds up the belt and like lifts his hand up and hypes him on television. And I'm like, okay, you guys aren't trying to hide that hard.
Like on today's spelling bee, your word is incognito.
I pity the fool who spells incognito. So BA's character,
what's that? What kind of fool? What kind of sucker fool expects me to spell a word out like that?
Incognito, incog my fist, fool. So that's very much like the Mr. T character, BA's character, is like the lovable dolt.
Yeah.
I guess you could say the muscle guy. And boy, oh boy, is he a big fan
Of the
of
Hulkster.
the Hulkster.
So yeah, the episode opens in a WWF wrestling ring with Hulk Hogan fighting. Oh, who was it? Was it Paul Orndorff? There's actually like a bunch of cameos by real wrestlers in a bunch of them in this episode, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, there's a I can't remember, but one of the anyways,
Or was it King Kong Bundy that he was fighting? I don't know, but
second time was Bun. Anyways,
they name drop who he's
they
wrestling.
do, yeah, and they're actual wrestlers. And
one thing is going on, or actually, there's a couple of things going on during this wrestling match that me, as a wrestling fan, took notice of right away. One, and they do this every time there's a wrestling match in the episode. They try to dramatize wrestling by just doing freeze frames and then slow motions.
yeah, I noticed the freeze frames. I thought that was just for the opening credits because they'll freeze frame and like.
But they did it later in
producer,
the episode.
But they
too.
do it later in the episode.
And I feel like this is a TV director not really knowing how to dramatize pro wrestling, like not knowing how to shoot pro wrestling.
Oh shoot! Right, because it's the director, and
Yeah,
yeah, that's fair. Yeah, yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah. So I took notice of that right away, and I'm like, huh, that's funny. Also, Mean Gene Okerlund, the legend himself, may he rest in peace,
The myth, yeah.
is providing play-by-play commentary to the arena.
Was it him?
That was Mean Gene, yeah. And
He's not.
After the match, he ends up interviewing the Hulkster.
Oh, that part was fine.
No, but here's where I'm going with this. I have been to many live pro wrestling events. That is not a thing.
No, I know.
If you watch
Wasn't
wrestling
that
on
weird?
TV, you have people doing commentary, but that's just for TV. When you're in the
That
arena,
annoyed me, and I caught that too. And I'm a filthy casual in the wrestling world. I was like, and the reason why we knew it was like announcements is there was like an echo or like a speaker system effect.
Yeah,
That I was like, am I stupid or is that like not a thing?
that's not a thing.
And he was trying his
fair,
hardest to.
Maybe that's a thing they did at house shows in the '80s. I don't know. I mean, I wasn't even
That's
a year
fair.
old when this episode aired.
Maybe
so
we
who
don't know.
knows?
Yeah.
But
But when he showed up for the interview, that felt way more realistic because
That was
like, that's
authentic,
actually
yeah.
what Mean Gene does. Yeah.
So after the match, which Hogan wins, and Mr. T, like a BA, gets in the ring and seems to be like the biggest simp for the Hulkster.
Oh man.
And we'll get into that more later on because
We get into more, even though he's a huge simp, their relationship is. We'll get into that in a sec, but
he's a big
it's
fan
revealed-
of the Hulkster.
He's a big fan, but also they went to Vietnam together
Yeah,
in this world.
So after the interview with Mean Gene, after Hogan is interviewed post-match by Mean Gene Okerlund,
Oh, he's really selling a charity event in his hometown of LA,
yeah,
but he won't say what it is,
which
is so weird.
Hogan is from Florida.
No, in this world, Hulk Hogan went to Vietnam
Yeah.
and is from LA.
So there's a couple like huge like inaccuracies here. One, the Hulkster is a Vietnam War vet in this show. Absolutely not a thing. And two, he's stated as being from as being a native of Venice Beach, California. He did live there at the time. I'll give him that. But
Yeah.
dude's actually from Florida.
Maybe that's what he meant by hometown, because like he
And in
that's his home.
WCW, when he was Hollywood Hulk Hogan, he was billed as being from Venice Beach.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. So
Yeah.
but the Vietnam thing,
But yes, decorated war hero, Master Sergeant, third grade, Terry Hulkamania Balea.
Prove us wrong. And as they're
Wouldn't it be great? You know how in like the first Captain America movie we see Captain America, but like his suit's actually really cool in that first movie because
I think so.
it's a Captain America suit, but it's like it's like a military uniform that's just blue with like stars and stripes on it.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be great to see like Hulk Hogan wearing something like that, but with like the red and yellow, and like on his helmet it says Hulkamania?
That's pretty that's pretty fucking cool.
He doesn't have a gun.
Instead of like a Captain America, he's got his belt.
He's got a guitar.
A guitar and a belt, but the belt and the guitar can deflect bullets.
Yeah.
I'm surprised this hasn't been made.
Support your local troops.
Gear.
Brother.
That's what the more legal gear is the steroid.
Oh, really?
Yeah, what is that? What is drug gear? Question mark. Oh wait, no, that's heroin. I'm stupid. Why did I think that was steroid? Oh well, what are you gonna do? Skag? Who calls heroin skag? That must be an old school one. Never heard of. My favorite music genre is skag.
I know what I know
Oh wait,
what
that's skank.
I know what Tina is. That's some drug slang right there.
There you go. And now I do too. I just assume it's methamphetamine.
That's that's a fair assumption to make.
All right. So when they get in the A-Team's iconic van, which they all crowd into.
So another thing about a lot of 80s TV, besides having hype theme songs, a lot of the times they had a really cool car.
Oh, you have to. Knight Rider.
Knight Rider.
Knight Rider is like the car is a character. That's different, I guess, but that's the hypest of vehicles. But yeah, it was
the A-Team van's pretty up there.
It's pretty up there. Yeah, it was all about like cool vehicles, right?
Airwolf, an attack helicopter.
Even movies did that. Back to the Future.
Yeah. Batman.
Right?
Tim Burton's Batman.
Yeah, let's bring back iconic like vehicles.
The Ninja Turtles had the party wagon.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, what happened with that? That was such a thing. I never thought about that, but you're right.
It was totally
a big thing. That was a thing.
In the 80s, especially. Like, everybody always had, like, a really hype, unique-looking vehicle. And indeed, the A-Team has the van, which is...
Mm-hmm. It's got that red, like, iconic stripe that goes out onto the back, right?
What is the van that they drive? I think it's a Ford. Oh, no, it's a GMC... a GMC Vandura.
Ooh.
1983 GMC Vandura. With its characteristic red stripe, black and red turbine mag wheels, and rooftop spoiler. Is an enduring pop culture island.
I love that stupid spoiler.
The customized 1994 GMC van in the A-Team movie was displayed at the 2010 New York International Auto Show. Have you seen the A-Team movie?
No.
It's pretty good, actually.
Oh.
Like it's not like it's not a movie that you're going to it's not an all-time classic, but like as far as like a movie adapting a TV show from the 1980s, it's definitely like top tier.
Oh, okay. What year was that?
2010. I wish there had been a sequel to it.
Wow.
There is a scene in that movie where they fly a tank. You heard that right. They fly a tank. It is the like absolute like from a logical and physics standpoint, it is the stupidest fucking thing imaginable, but it is so like glorious in how unrealistic it is that it's actually kind of an amazing scene.
That's a good headliner for the A-Team in general, is that a lot of it is stupid but glorious.
Yeah. Yeah, that 2010 A-Team movie. I feel like...
So you feel like it was on brand.
I feel like they got the show.
And for anybody watching this, I never watched any A Team. Just I, for whatever
Really?
reason, it wasn't on. It wasn't on any of the channels that we had, or it was on at a time where I couldn't watch it. Never watched any of it. But right away, I was aware of the show, knowing what it was,
Yeah.
like being self-aware, and delivering exactly what it portrays.
Yeah.
And I shockingly, not to spoil my rating, but shockingly, like from beginning to end, uh, I was all aboard.
You know what
In
I
fact, I
did?
laughed multiple times. That made both of us laugh at different points.
You know what I did, and this is actually pretty rare for this podcast. I watched the episode twice.
Oh,
I watched it a couple of days ago, and then I watched it again today because I enjoyed
nice.
it that much.
Yeah, that is rare for this show.
So I really liked the A Team when I was a little kid. The show, when exactly did it air? Um, and this is one of those things too, where it is kind of noteworthy that like I am slightly older than you are.
Yeah, just enough
Where I was like still actively like seeing reruns of this show when I was a little kid. Um, whereas like at the time, and this would have been when I was like 4 or 5 years old, and me being a
right.
couple of years older than you means at that time you would have been like two, three.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um, when did it air again? From January 23rd, 1983 to March 8th, 1987. So I was two when the show was canceled, but
It feels like it was made earlier than that. It's got very 70s vibes.
I remember, well, and we've talked about this before, but like um decades like kind of fade into one another. There's
They
no like
do. They do.
there's no like hard line like
Sorry, folks, but the
s-
decades fade together.
stopping point where it's like, oh, suddenly it's now the 80s. The 70s are gone. Goodbye, bell bottoms and
Goodbye, bell bottoms and afros and
it's the 80s now. Let's bring out the parachute pants and neon spandex.
fingerless gloves.
Decades don't actually work that way.
How dare.
Um, but yeah, so I was two when the show was canceled, but like at the time, and I've talked about this before, at the time, it was very common for shows to stay in syndication in reruns for years, decades even, after they
Yeah.
originally aired. Um, which isn't really nearly as common anymore. And again, I've talked about this before, and I won't get too much into it, but it has a lot to do with like the just complete like overwhelming amount of content nowadays versus what we had like 30 years ago.
Hmm.
But anyway, so I really liked the A Team when I was a little kid. I actually used to have a sleeping bag that had that had the A Team on it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
I had like a camping like sleeping bag that had like all four of them, and it had the van. It had all four of them on one side, and it had the van on the other.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was blue. I really liked it. And then when I was a teenager, there was a channel. I think it was called Peachtree TV. So
Oh, that sounds really familiar.
this would have been the early 2000s, and they had reruns of the A Team on there. And I'm like, oh hey, the A Team! I haven't seen that show since I was a little kid, and I just started watching it again.
Rad.
So the A Team
HGTV.
the A Team is something that is like persisted in my pop culture periphery.
Nice. I'm
Anyway,
glad. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah. So anyway, Hogan meets up with the A Team at like they're walking through the arena. I keep wanting to call it Madison Square Garden, but it's like no, they're in
Right.
L.A., not New
Yeah.
York.
Yeah.
Whatever arena they're in. And yeah, Hogan is talking about how like I can't remember. Was it him who saved B.A. Baracus in Vietnam, or was it the other
So
way around?
So we never know because they constantly argue
Oh,
about
okay.
who saved who throughout the episode. One of them got like knocked out from a blast of a grenade, and the other one um hauled them in. And Hannibal ends up like separating them because they keep arguing. It's a thing throughout the whole episode of who saved who.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And
Yeah,
he's
that's right.
like, and it's like, and it's hinted at one point that they were both knocked out and they both woke up in like a mash situation. They both woke up in like a field like hospital.
Yeah, they had MASH units in Vietnam.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, they both woke up in a field hospital, so it's hinted at that they're both full of shit.
Which I kind of like, yeah.
Um, and what is it? Hannibal says in the van, it was like, you guys see each other so infrequently and you survived a life or death situation together. Does it even matter? And both of them are like, oh, that's a good point. But maybe his memory's a little bit foggy, but mine's crystal clear. And I remember dragging his ass 30 miles through the jungle.
Listen here, Jack. I'm a decorated Vietnam war hero, brother.
I feel like that's in this universe. There's a cooler Hulk Hogan. Hard to believe. But
This universe's Hulk Hogan is better than the real world Hulk Hogan.
yeah,
Especially,
thanks for backing me up.
especially given like a lot of stuff that's come out about Hogan in the past like 15 or so years.
Past 15 years don't exist.
Yeah, he's
1985, and we're in LA. And so, what's the gist of this one? What's the A team?
I will say real quick, Hulk Hogan, shitty human being. But I'm still going to enjoy like
The character.
I still enjoy like watching like old school like Hulkamania running wild, brother.
It's that constant. And he Hulk Hogan's it up so much in this.
He does.
Like
It's pretty
dropping
amazing.
the like, oh, the Hulksters and Hulkamania's coming, and like he's very like maximum.
Well, and here's the
Hogan.
thing is like Hogan got so into that apparently that is just how he talks all the time.
Yeah, the kayfabe is
Yeah,
like
he kept kayfabe going, like just in casual conversation. Like Hogan is always like,
to
"Listen
the
here,
point where
brother."
he's just like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and the plot of this is that a local like child's like a rec center for kids. So it's got different things, to keep them
So
off the streets, a pool, and a bunch of other stuff.
so we got a hot redhead chick who's running a
A
local
youth
like charitable
center, yeah.
charitable like rec center for underprivileged children. And Hulkamania be fanning dollars all over this place, brother.
Yeah, and they're barely making their payments to the man. And well, wouldn't you know it, the we cut to the owner, who we find out because she's being not interrogated, she's being pushed. I called them mobsters before I even knew they were technically mobsters because they're acting like it. But she's being pushed by mobsters to sell the land.
Yeah.
And they mention, oh, your father would have taken the money. So there's some old feud, like their family knows.
Listen here, Toots. I got a check right here. You see it? It's got your name on it.
I got one here with real money, and I got one here. A sandwich, you might say, made of knuckles. Now, I don't want to have to take Mr. Knuckles here out of my pocket, but I will take this out. And he slaps an envelope with a check or something in it.
One
right?
of these checks in each of my hands, you're going to enjoy cashing a lot more than the other one. That's all I'm saying.
And the other one, it might bounce once or twice. I let you decide which one.
Which is which.
And she doesn't. And then like a little kid comes in and it's like, "Oh, Mrs. Dickey, um, blah blah blah." This kid's like 6 or something, and that's when she decides. Now that they're distracted, the mobsters are distracted by a child. In front of the child, she pulls out a fucking gun and points it at the. I laughed like. She didn't pull it out beforehand. It wasn't like he caught her. She waited for the distraction of the child opening the door to pull out the gun,
Yeah.
probably scarring the child. Oh, this is the 80s.
This is
So he's
America.
probably seen. Yeah, he's probably this wasn't even his like first.
Actually, no, gun violence wasn't really like much of a thing at this point.
70s and 80s were really bad in LA. Like crime was highest that it had ever been.
Yeah, it's
Maybe
fair.
by 85 it was like dying down, but it was not. Ooh, it was.
No, well,
Not
no,
good
what I just
times.
meant was like things like school shootings and whatnot weren't really a
Oh,
thing at the time.
children. See, there was some weird respect for children that people had back in those decades now.
That they don't have anymore.
It's just very brief aside, but I think why not go to a cop station and shoot up a police station if you're gonna take it out on the man, right? But like kids, oh man, you're a special fucking place in hell. Where
Yeah, I don't understand it. Like it's one thing where like something like say Columbine where like a couple teenagers who
they're
were
their
bullied.
peers getting they're the peers. But when
I,
it's like
I'm not
fucking
condoning
adult.
that, but I'm saying like that like
As someone who hated people in high school,
you can
like I understand the angst.
you can kind of understand that to an extent. I can never wrap my head around a grown adult walking to like an elementary school and just opening fire. Like
That's
what in the ever loving fuck?
the bottom layer of hell. For you. I peel that guy's skin off.
Yeah.
I just wanted to I don't that's a special level of evil.
No,
Yeah.
it's monstrous. And you know, those are the kind of like situations too where like to be perfectly honest, like I say to the cops, don't take them alive.
Or
I'm
in the
not like
case,
I'm not big on like vigilante justice or anything like that, but in like like something like that, it's like no, just shoot the guy.
I don't know, man. Like that feels like getting off too early. Giving
Fair.
too easy. Like I don't know. I skin him, fucking like skin him, pull his teeth out.
Shoot him in the knees, shoot his feet off, shoot his dick off.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah,
And then kill him. And then just one in the head.
throw him in a blackberry bush. Ooh, yeah. Uh, then when he crawls out, throw him back in.
Make him run across the kindergarten classroom floor covered in Lego.
There we go.
The floor is like covered in Lego. Make him run across
Yeah, make
that.
him run through Lego. Yeah.
After you've already like shot him in the knees.
So, anyways, we this child who's not scarred because it's the 80s, but is in a time where he doesn't need to worry about going to school. Sees his
Or maybe this is after
Miss
school.
Dickey. Oh, probably, yeah. Sees
He's
Miss
like in
Dickey,
kindergarten or something, and this is where he goes after school.
pulls a revolver out, and the mobsters are like, "Hey, close that door." And they wrestle the gun away from her and like smack her around. And there's a knock on the door, and they're like, "Hey, kid, you want a taste of this medicine?" And they open the door, and wouldn't you know it, the Hulkster's there. And
And
there's so many fist cams, like a camera right behind the fist that comes out that shows the shoulder and the head of the person punching. And I'm like, Sam Raimi must have been a fan.
It's
Been a
not-
fan.
and it's not just the Hulkster either. It's also B.A. Baracus in
I love the
head
fist
to toe Hulk Hogan merch.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, he's got full like merch. They're wearing the same tank top. The
Yeah.
Hulkamania tank top.
And BA has like a
Oh, he's got the
Hulkamania hat.
Yeah,
And
he's
like they're
got the
wearing
hat.
like the same pants.
Not only do they kick the shit out of them, they like throw them through the window. Like pick them up. Like what's it called? The atomic body. No, that's the atomic leg drop. What's the press body slam where you like do the
Oh,
fuck man?
that's a
Help me out here, listeners.
that's
The
a
atomic leg drop.
I think an atomic
It is atomic, right?
it is atomic. Yeah, I think it's an
Atomic body slam?
atomic.
Atomic slam.
I think it's an atomic body slam.
Right. Well, did I doubt myself? Atomic. Well, anyone listening, all of you watch wrestling, as we found out. So let us know.
So,
Is this
folks,
leg drop the atomic leg drop?
listeners, you know I'm a big pro wrestling fan. I got to be perfectly honest. I'm really bad with names of moves. Like I know there are tons of wrestling fans out there who can like watch like a wrestler do a move and know exactly what it is. I am not one of those people, and I fully admit that.
And well, when you know it, they throw their ass out of there. And the first thing I think of is this lady's hard up on cash, and they just broke her window.
Fair. Yeah, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, there's $500. And they get
And
out.
Hogan is like, Vince McMahon's going to pay for that. Don't you worry, sister.
Vince McMahon ain't paying for shit.
No, he's not.
And what's the gist of it? She's behind on her payments, the fundraiser, and all the earnings for the show. It's what are the private house show, right?
Yeah, house show.
When it's
not televised.
Yeah. All of the, but is this one televised? Because there's an announce. No, it's not. All the big hype for it, all of the income from that is going to keep this place from the bank reclaiming it.
There's a funny scene where the Hulkster, I'm gonna paraphrase, but the Hulkster is like we need to go and shake those dudes down and let them know that we're in town. And
Can I mention the quote because I love this? So the gist of it is that's why the A-Team are here, to not only get these guys off the back, which we find out there's a little bit more than them just trying to buy the place as we go ahead. But there's a funny part in it where, okay, so the lovable but dumb like trope is both the Hulk and BA in this episode. And normally you don't want two people with that trope in any story that you're telling. But it fucking works in this one so well because they bounce off of each other so well.
Yeah.
Mr. T and Hulk Hogan. And there's a part where
I can see why they work
sent
together
it to you
a lot.
Yeah, I can see that now. There's a part where they bounce ideas off each other, and Hulk's like, "Well, let's go kick down the door and let them know that we're in town." Mr. T's like, "That's not how we do things, brother. Like, we gotta plant listening devices and like get some dirt on them and do things properly."
Hannibal's the one who makes the plans.
And besides, we're not the ones who make the plan. Hannibal's the one that makes the plan. And Hulk turns to Hannibal and he's like, "Well, what's the plan, brother?" And Hannibal's like, "Well, I think you and BA should go kick down some doors and let them know you're in town." And then BA says, "That's a great plan. See, this is why he's the idea guy." And they both like nod as if he didn't just say that. And that's the first time I actually like started laughing. I was like, okay, this is actually really good. And indeed, we find out that not quite a mobster, son of mobster, if you will.
Yeah.
This guy, when it cuts to the mobster, he's talking to his dad who just got out of jail, who spent 20 years in there for being a wise guy, so to speak.
You know, I just spent 20 fucking years behind bars for being an innocent man. Nothing more than an innocent man, let me tell you.
But when he's not in public, the up and up, he's scrutinizing his son for what is it? 80% of the family business is legitimate because he's a yacht salesman. I sell no boats for under $1 million. And in my head, I'm like, wow, that's a fucking steal. But this is in the
This is
80s.
1985. This is
Yeah,
like almost 40 years ago now.
I was like, what a fucking steal. And there's an open, not an open, sorry, a private showing of a certain yacht.
Can't even buy a fucking house for that anymore. Let alone a yacht.
Let alone a yacht, yeah. There's a private showing, and the hostess is like, "Oh, Mr. Hogan, your name's not on the list." But he's got that star power, right? And he's like, "Well, I'm real interested in this, sister. I'm real interested, and me and my buddy, we're real interested. So we're just gonna go on in." I fucking love this. So they walk in on this, like, these rich people looking at this yacht, and this guy's risen them up. He's all like, "Oh, this used to belong to like a Brazilian like mobster, but who knows what's in the lower deck? So don't go searching too much. Hey. But that's why I can pass the savings on to you." So basically, he's illegitimately acquiring these boats from criminals or through criminal means, basically. And wouldn't you know it, towering, ducking their head under parts of the ceiling is Hulk and Mr. T, who really dwarf the rest of these guys. And not only is he a wrestler, he is part of the community. He starts shaking hands with people. "Oh, thank you for giving me those ringside seats. Oh, thank you, Mr. Blah, 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 for that donation to the shelter the other day." And they're all like, "Hey, I'm trying to get that community center, and thanks for donating. And oh, Mrs. Carfunkel, thanks for donating too. And oh, I don't think I have a donation from you, Mr. Mobster." And the guy's like, "Oh, well, of course I'm gonna donate." And he's like gritting his teeth, and Hulk is like, "Why don't you write a check right now,
dude?"
And the dude's like, "Yeah." So instead of, $1,000, $5,000, he gets in shit from his dad because the fucking dude writes a check for $25,000. Like, he didn't give you a specified amount to the community center that his family is trying to buy.
Is trying to buy, yeah.
And his dad, rightfully so, I'm with his dad on this, is like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" And he's like, don't worry, I'll get the check back. This is how it's done, Dad. This is all like smoke and mirrors. We play the part of the Good Samaritan, the charitable guy. And he's like, "Why'd you have to donate so much?" And I'm like, $25,000 in 1985 money?
Yeah, 1985.
Dude, that's enough
money,
to like just.
That'd probably be like close to $100,000 now.
Dude, that's enough to like fund a school for like years in LA. And this motherfucker's, but he was trying to show off for all the rich yacht people.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, there you go. You just saved the community center right there. But while this is happening, Faceman and who's the technician? Who's the technical guy?
Murdoch.
Murdoch, thank you.
Okay, so $25,000 in 1985 money would be almost $73,000 US today.
Just drop it on a community center? What the fuck are they going to do with that much money? Hey kids, you know how we had hot dogs for lunch? Now we're serving a caviar. While this is happening, Faceman and Murdoch are planting listening devices. No, they're looking up files.
They're looking up files, and Murdoch makes the comment that kind of made me laugh. He's like, listen, why do I always got to be the one portraying blue collar jobs? Like, I really want to stretch my range as an actor.
Yeah.
Which I had forgotten about this show. Every episode always features them like going like super into character to do things.
Oh,
it's actually
man.
quite comical. And later on in the episode, indeed, there's a hilarious bit where Hannibal is playing a corrupt FBI agent.
Holy shit. And Faceman is like the legitimate FBI
like by
agent.
the book guy. Yeah.
I that kills me. And what do they find out? They find out the real name of the family before it was changed,
Yeah.
Kotaro, and that gives them some digging. Because Faceman later goes to the precinct pretending he's an FBI agent, like trying to trying to.
So that part is hilarious too. So he goes to the precinct and he's in the bathroom and these two like cops are like, "Oh man, the Musgrave case, let me tell you." And I know it. The reason why that name sticks out to me is because that's my mom's last name.
Oh,
Yeah. Oh
I
man,
love how they just like improv, like
the
they pull their weight. They're
the Musgrave case, it's killing me. And Face Man is like, yeah, that damn Musgrave case. Whew, boy, sure glad they didn't put me on it. As he lifts the one of the agents, like FBI like badge
without him noticing,
without
and
him
then he just
noticing it.
walks down the hall
Yeah,
and starts asking like a technician, like a guy at a
a
desk,
clerk. Yeah,
clerk, yeah, to pull up some files, old files, and he mentions the Musgrave
he's like, oh,
case.
that Musgrave case. Let me tell you. And he's
So
like, oh, I
hard to
know,
get this to
oh,
pin
I
this
know.
guy, get him behind bars. And then the guy looks at him and he's like, "But we've arrested him."
We arrested him like a
And
week
he's
ago.
like,
He's like, did I say arrest? I meant convict. That's what I meant.
I meant convict him, and it's just like, and then the clerk eventually go because he's such a great actor. Then eventually the clerk is like, "Oh man, it's going to take years to get enough dirt to put this guy behind bars," and it's like,
He's
"Oh,
like,
actually."
it's tied to
He pulls a yeah, he's like, "Oh, what? Actually, he's tied to a case. I've been looking up a 25-year-old case. Goes by the name of Kotaro."
and the guy's like 25 years. He would have been in the 6th grade. And Face, not missing a beat, is like actually 5th.
Fifth grade,
But
actually.
but it's tied to his father.
And I was like, "Oh, okay. I like everyone on this team.
I'm
They all
like
have their."
I'm like, what a sly, smooth motherfucker Face Man is.
But us watching the audience, it's like, this is so cheesy. That's no way this would work,
No.
right? But it's over the top enough to appreciate it. And when you know it, he digs up some info on it, and discussing the info back at the team. The new headquarters is at the rec center's office.
Yeah, and there's a scene where they're all like sitting around like a lawn table outside and they're
Oh
like
yeah,
going over the files and they're like discussing the case and like figuring out the logistics of it. And I'm like, this is actually more involved than I would have expected for this show.
now usually I hate the let's get some info and tie it all together and bada bing bada boom, you got an episode. Shockingly and surprisingly, not even just for the A Team, which I wasn't expecting much, but even compared to detective shows, all of the writing for like the getting the dirt and finding the
Yeah,
connections,
it actually felt
pretty
like
good.
it felt like something out of a police procedural, which surprised me. I was
So
like, this isn't what I was expecting from the A Team.
and it's not like it's not Law and Order, like a boring episode of Law and Order. Like I was like, oh shit, they're good at what they do.
Yeah.
I dug it. And yeah, they find out that Dickie's the redhead you like, her dad may have been he was a loving father. He looked after her, but may have been legitimate partners with Mr. Kotaro Sr. back in his day, and there might have been a gold bar heist.
Well, and to her credit too, like she was like, "Oh, I never knew anything about that with my dad." And Hannibal is like, again, I'm paraphrasing, but Hannibal is like, well, sometimes, you don't see every side of a person. Like, you don't always know, like, what people are doing behind closed doors. And she's like, look, to me, he's always going to be dad. Like, I had a great childhood. He really wanted a son. My mom died before that could
He
happen.
could have been Capone for all I know.
But like he always took me to baseball games, played catch with me. Like, he was a wonderful father. But like, it's possible he could have been like this, and I just didn't see it.
And while the camera's on her, it kind of shows Hulk Hogan's like hand on her shoulder, like reassuringly. And this is one of the wholesome moments where I was like, holy, holy shit, man! This show's bringing everything.
Yeah.
And I like that. And they were like, okay, so we've got an in. And I can't quite remember the turn of events, but we've got the mobsters trying to abduct Hulk and BA, but we've also got a fake FBI scene,
Yeah.
and I can't remember what order.
Let's talk about the Hulkster and BA getting abducted first.
So they go to go kick some asses in and go grab like Kotaro or something like that. They're the Hammer Squad. Well,
Yeah.
when you know it, in the parking lot right outside a bodybuilding gym, the
They get
mobsters surround them. There's like 4 of them,
Yeah.
and they have guns, and they're like, listen, she here, you're gonna follow us inside of their building, and you're gonna keep it real quiet, move real, just keep your hands where we can see them. And they're all like, oh, fuck, man, this is fucking hilarious.
This is so.
And so
this,
they
this
go
is
into
so
the building.
funny. So they go inside. It's pitch black, and the one guy, one of the mobsters, who
Thug
has,
number
like,
2.
thug number 2, who has a gun on Hogan, is like, he's like, listen here, hit the lights. And Hogan, and this made me laugh out fucking loud. Hogan is like, listen, dude, I'm looking for the switch. And then
It's just his delivery. Like,
after
it's
a couple of seconds, he's like, oh, here it is.
oh, here it is. And when they flick the light on, Hulk and BA turn around and they're smiling, and the fuck, this is shot so well. They're smiling, and the mobsters look confused, and they turn around, and there are all these fucking jacked bodybuilders, like on roids, like, well, everybody in the 80s was,
Oh, yeah.
but huge fuckers with their like arms crossed and like grinning. Oh, fuck me, this is so great.
And a
then
fight breaks
the action, the fight scene is so good. Like, they throw them across the room multiple times. There are clotheslines. There are like fucking like body, like bench press body slam. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
And all the muscle dudes just like throwing them in a pile. One of them goes,
Wow.
yeah! And like,
While a legally distinct version of Eye of the Tiger plays.
a similar enough to be recognizable, but legally distinct Eye of the Tiger plays in the background.
But
I'm
legally
surprised
distinct
there
enough
was-
that they didn't have to pay royalties.
I'm surprised there wasn't like a huge jacked like black dude with nunchucks and an afro like in there too. Like this had everything, and all of these like jacked dudes just throwing them across the room, throw them into a pile, and then all like high five each other or whatever. And they were like, "Yeah, tell your boss, blah blah blah. Crime doesn't pay," or something like that. It doesn't matter. They kicked their ass.
Listen, dude, I'm looking for the switch.
Listen, dude, I told you where the switch was.
I don't know why, just that line, like, I burst out into laughter both times that I watched this
Just the
episode.
delivery of the Hulk. Like, he's so in. He doesn't need any acting training because he's been acting his entire career, right? And then after that joyful fight, we cut to the intellectual side of things, where Faceman and Hannibal impersonate an
couple of-
old
A couple FBI agents.
A couple FBI agents. One of the Hannibal
One of them
being
is
the
from
older
out of
gentleman.
town.
And the other one is an out of town, like by the books, like face man is the by the books, like, hey, like we can't just barge in here. We can't just point guns at them. We got to do things properly. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Like kind of like a Weasley, like sycophant, like FBI agent. And Hannibal with his like fucking angled fedora. Listen here. He's doing a Columbo.
Reach for the sky, see?
He's
The law's
like,
in town, you see? And you know what the law
prepare
is?
to get fucked by the long dick of the law.
The law's me. The law right here, right now, is me, and this
And this Colt 45.
and this 38 special I got here. See?
It
That's
is
the only
It
law.
is a 38 special. That's the only law gun I know.
That's the only law you got to worry about right now. She is me and the 38 special. I call her Susie.
Now listen here, Susie's real hungry for justice. So basically, they kick the shit out of some bodyguards before pulling the gun on them, and eventually, Kotaro Jr., the legitimate businessman, is like, "Oh yeah, you're the FBI. Let's see some identification." They show them the fakes, right? Yeah. Okay, I'm going to call this in. What's your extension? Oh, 555, blah, blah, blah. Now, this is a real FBI agent he's impersonating.
Yeah. Yeah, because he stole the guy's badge.
And he's like, and gave it to Hannibal. And he's like, oh, is agent blah, blah, blah there? Or do you have an agent blah, blah, blah? Oh, you do. Is he there?
Can I talk
he's
to
out.
him? Oh,
he's out in the field.
Oh,
okay.
Smart.
There's actually some smart shit in some of these episodes.
The guy who made the phone call, it was really like bothering me where I recognized him from, so I looked him up on IMDb. One, the dude has been in like literally hundreds of things. He's a character
Kotaro
actor.
Jr.
He did a shitload of anime voices in the 90s and 2000s, weirdly enough. But from what I recognize him from is he is in RoboCop. Not for very long, but
he's a bad guy in RoboCop?
No, he's not a bad guy. He's a cop. In the scene in RoboCop when the mayor, early on in the film, just after like Murphy has become Robo, the former mayor of Detroit is holding the current mayor and a bunch of other people hostage. And so this guy is the cop with the like megaphone who is like trying to negotiate with him.
Oh, wow. How did you... Oh, you must have seen his like IMDb casting or something? Or did you just recognize him?
Well, no, I recognize him and I'm like, where do I know this guy from? So I looked him up on IMDb. And then it's like, oh, RoboCop, Lieutenant blah, blah. And I'm like...
So he has a huge voice acting and acting career is what you're saying.
Yeah. So I'm
Good for
like...
him.
Yeah. So I'm like, who was he in RoboCop? Lieutenant like blah, blah. And then I thought about it and I'm like, he was the hostage negotiator.
Nice. Amazing.
Great character.
Well, there you go. Later I'll look him up. But what ends up happening here? Faceman leaves with the thugs, and they're like, okay, we'll let them have 5 minutes, no more. And the thugs and I will come on, let's go for a walk. And Hannibal gets together with the Kotaro father and son, and he's like, all right, I'll make this to the point. He's playing the brother of the FBI agent that busted him. And he's like, I want half of the gold that you buried. And he's like, what gold? And it's like, oh, really?
Did we actually mention that? That like basically like the whole thing here is that the reason why.
So the whole, you're right. I get, yeah, I forgot. The whole thing is that this community center, this whole area, way back in the 50s before he went in the slammer, is Kotaro buried a bunch of gold bars on the property, and that's back when the lot was vacant.
That's why
in the 60s.
That's why they're trying so hard to like buy buy the land off of redhead lady.
And that's why they're willing to overpay for it.
Yeah,
Even.
because there's like millions upon millions of dollars, or no, not millions.
It's like $780,000.
700 and something $1,000 worth of gold. Yeah.
Because they're like, oh, it was worth 75,000, and Murdoch is kind of like do, because he's kind of like the technical like person, and he's like, okay, and like USD do be worth, and he's got a calculator. London gold goes for this right now, about $768,000.
Yeah.
Which, even though in the 80s that's how much it would have been worth, the buying power was way different in the 80s.
Oh yeah, totally. That's why in like a show like say Married with Children, like Al Bundy works a minimum wage like job as a like shoe salesman. But he can still
like
afford
a 2-story fucking
he can still
home.
afford a massive house. That wasn't entirely unrealistic for the time.
All right. What year was this episode?
1985.
All right. So
it's over $2 million.
So $750,000 in 1980 is worth $2,999,471 in 2024.
Yeah.
To give it our perspective of how much money they just found. So it'd be like 3 mil in gold bars
today.
And,
but again, as you
today.
said, also like buying power was different back then.
Cars were like a few $1,000s, man. Right? Like teenagers had cars.
Yeah.
Right? Like teenagers could save money for cars, which always blows my mind. So anyways, the Hannibal character, the brother of the cop that put him away, my brother died penniless, and I'm not going to make the same mistakes. I want half of the gold. And Katero's like, how do I know that you won't just take all of it? And it's like, because you'll be right there with me. We'll both go in. I'll have the proper paperwork. We'll leave with the gold in a legitimate police vehicle. Bada bing, bada boom. We both take our share. What do you say? And for some perplexing reason, they're like, sounds good. And it's like, you're admitting to the... Oh, if these were real FBI agents, that you just fell for the sting. Like, you guys are kind of dumb, but I guess they're just done with it. Like, they just...
Well, I mean, to be fair, like he did just pull a gun on them. Like,
they could be bullshitting. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, no, it's not that. It's just like the guy's not exactly doing things by the book, because like he pulled a gun on them, like straight up, and like started.
Oh, so
like,
they know he's
them.
a crooked cop.
Yeah.
Kinda. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'll give him that. And
so after this scene, they go outside, and Murdoch is pretending to be a prisoner, and he's trying to dig up the gold.
At the community center. So
at the community center, yeah.
They show up and they're like, hey, we've got all the paperwork right here, and we need to do some excavation. And for some reason, Murdoch is like a
prisoner,
like a prison like worker who's doing like like
hard labor.
Hard labor, yeah. And what does he say? He said, hey, I didn't sign up to be a prisoner to do no digging.
Something like that, yeah. And then,
why can't you just be a groundskeeper? Why do you have to be a prisoner? But I liked.
And Murdoch is digging, and like he clearly, like he's acting like he wants no part of this, but he's like, he says to like the fake FBI agent, he's like, break, boss. And Hannibal is like, no breaks.
No breaks. And that's sir.
And so he keeps digging, and he's like, water, sir. And Hannibal's like, I'm not thirsty.
Actually, I'm fine. Yeah.
I don't know. I laughed at that.
I like that too.
I'm not thirsty.
Because that was just Hannibal getting staying in character.
Yeah.
And well, when you know it, there's a metal chest at the bottom of this, and they uncover it and crack it open, and there's just a letter there. But before their heist comes to an end, because the idea was to trick them into thinking that the gold was like moved by an old corrupt associate or something like that. I can't remember who it was signed by,
Yeah.
but it was moved. And this is clearly the A team trying to just get rid of the
Yeah.
get rid of the mobsters,
to get them to give up on the
give
land.
up on trying to get the land. Yeah. But when you know it, the actual police come.
Led by Colonel Decker, the A team's arch nemesis.
Yeah. And they're like, "Oh, what the heck is going on here? No, this is all legal. Who are you? What's going on?" And then I don't know, rips off a mustache or takes off his hat, and it's like, "Actually, I'm Hannibal Smith, and I suggest you get down." And they all get down, and the police just open fire.
Face Man starts shooting.
Oh my
toward the
god,
police
he's
in the most like comedic way possible. The way he's like he's waving his machine gun around comedically as he's firing.
like he's never used a gun before, but he actually shoots out the windows and the tires of the cop car, which is wild because he's spinning the gun like this.
Yeah.
And I think that, like I said, the show knows what it is. And whenever he's holding a gun, have you ever noticed he holds it like not to say daintily, but like he's afraid of it almost.
He holds it like a dandy.
And later on, when he has a handgun, he holds it like a dandy, as a dandy man, if you will. If you later on too. But despite Faceman trying to cover them and trying to get them out of that like situation there, the Coteros get away. But
the A-team
who is
get
it?
arrested.
Hannibal? Not all of them. Hannibal, Faceman,
And BA.
and BA.
Murdoch is the one who is left because he's the one who shows up dressed as a general to bust them out.
Talk about, and he's like, "This isn't my specialty. I don't know if I can do this." Well, it's time to nut up or shut up, brother.
So one thing I will mention is Murdoch's nickname is Howling Mad. And early on in the show, like they actually like they broke him out of like they escaped from prison and they broke him out of a mental institution because he was supposedly crazy. The show kind of forgot about that very quickly.
Yeah, I can tell in this one. Instead, they made him like the smart, on his toes, like the technician of the team.
Yeah.
Yeah. And well, it's time to break the others out, and he puts on his best general suit.
Murdoch, played by the great Dwight Schultz, who a few years after this would go on to have a recurring role in the Star Trek franchise as Ensign Reg Barclay.
Fuck yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Very, very different character.
Very different character. And he walks in, and they're military police here. Yada yada. There's some scene where the military police show up and they're like, "Hey, we've been after these guys for 10 years. You are handing them over to the military police." And there's this trope. Thank God it's kind of died down, but it stayed around for like 30 fucking years, where it's like, "Hey, this is my jurisdiction. No, we made the arrest. Well, actually, I'm taking the case over now. FBI, I'm taking the case over now. Men in Black." And that's done lightly here, but basically the FBI aren't handing them over.
I think we can handle one little girl. And if you want to give me any of that juris my diction crap, you can cram it right up your ass. I sent 2 units. They're coming. They're bringing her out now. No, Lieutenant, your men are already dead.
I love that. Your men are already dead.
Hugo Weaving, the legend.
The legend, yeah. Whether it's an elf, an AI, or a program, they call them in the Matrix.
I remember reading an interview several years ago now, because In the first three Michael Bay Transformers movies, Hugo Weaving voiced Megatron. You wouldn't know
Yep.
it watching the movie. Like, doesn't sound anything like him, but he did.
He does a good job. Yeah.
He does a good job. He got very candid after because he did the first three, and then for whatever reason, he just wasn't asked to come back, and they ended up recasting Megatron with Frank Welker, who voiced him in the G1 cartoon, which
That's
always
right.
makes a lot more sense to me, since they got Peter Cullen to do Optimus Prime in all of those movies. Anyway, he got very candid in an interview several years ago, where when someone asked him, they're like, "Oh, how would you reflect on your time doing the voice of Megatron in the Transformers films?" And he was like, "I've never met Michael Bay, never watched any of those movies. I have a studio in my home. I recorded for about a half hour, and I got paid. Never saw those movies, never want to, never met Michael Bay, don't need to."
Isn't that interesting?
It's quite.
I have a studio at home, sent them the files, bada bing, bada boom, Megatron.
I sent them the files. I got paid like $100,000 for it, and for like a half hour's work, and that's all that franchise means to me. And I'm like,
Isn't that great?
you go, Hugo
Professional,
Weaving.
God damn it. Hugo Weaving. I love that. I didn't know that.
I read this years ago, like probably like
That's
10,
amazing.
10 or so years ago now at this point. But
That sounds like him.
anyway, so Murdoch shows up dressed in disguise as a military general, and outside there are a bunch of outside the police precinct there are a bunch of MPs like guarding, and he's like, "Those men in there are the A-team. They are some of the most dangerous men known to man. You are not allowed to bring weapons in." And they're like, "But sir,"
With the implication that they'll somehow
use
be
them
able
to
to take
escape.
them.
Yeah. And he's like,
But
"But
sir,
sir,"
we're not allowed to give up our firearms.
and he's like, you see how many stars there are here? 4. 4-star general.
You see how many stars here? 4. 4 4 stars there. And then he like
Put the fucking guns away.
tears off the stripes of the one of the guys, and he's like, "You'll get these back when this is over." And he goes in and he just bluffs his way through everything.
Yeah.
Because it's like, "Oh, sir," and there's a guy like at the desk, and it's just like, "Hey, we're taking them right now." And it's like, "Do you want to get demoted just like this man here?"
I didn't think
Follow
so.
orders.
Yeah.
I didn't think so. And they take them out, and then like awkwardly, like as they're leaving out into the alleyway, there's just a they just like switch who the guns are pointing at. Like there's no like struggle or like anything. All of a sudden they're just leaving the building, and the A-team has the guns pointed at them. And so I thought they were going to lock them in the van, but no, they get in the van, leaving the MPs with no weapons, and just drive away. And then the real general comes out, and they're like, "Where's the A-team? Oh, we released it to General blah blah blah." Really? And he looks out the window and like moves the shades or whatever, and it's just like, "So you have everything under control, do you, detective?" Like talking to like the FBI guy who's in charge.
Yeah.
Because this has happened. He's seen this so many times that at this point he's above like yelling at people about it.
Yeah, literally almost every episode, Colonel Decker like has the A-team like just
Within his grasp,
right where
Yeah.
he wants them, and somehow they get away.
And well, they all escape, and the A-team's reunited for the grand finale.
It's very convenient that instead of taking the A-team van to like a police lockup or something, they just parked it in the back alleyway.
That is
outside the
convenient,
precinct.
isn't it? Wait, did they actually escape in the van? I thought it was a police van.
Oh, I thought it was the A-team van that they escaped in, but
A van. Yeah.
Who cares?
One of the vans. Yeah.
Either way, they get the van back.
Either way, they get the van back. Um,
They're getting the van back together.
how does
again.
the episode close up?
Oh God, what happens?
I just watched this, but
I've watched it twice now, and I'm drawing a complete blank.
because they get out and then it's almost like it's done off screen. 1 second, folks.
I feel derpalicious right now.
Derpalicious. Yeah, how does it fucking wrap up? I remember the very end when they're like at the dock and they kind of like
Yeah,
take
so do
the
I.
yacht,
Yeah.
right? But like, how do they get the bad guys?
The A team saves the day, and bad guys go to jail.
I anyways, I obviously it's not that important. They have enough info to right. It's revealed like what their real name is, like what's going on, and the files are like passed on to like the actual authorities or whatever. I can't remember how they bust them, but there ends up yada yada yada, bada bing, bada boom, no big fucking deal. They end. Fast forward to it's really short. Whatever happens to them,
Yeah.
they're in jail, right? Or they're running from the law and they had to leave town.
And the rec center's financial problems have been solved, even though the gold is gone, because I think the police took it.
Right. So the gold is part of in this old case. So they actually like took it. No, it's revealed that they have no idea where the gold could be, and they'd have to tear everything up to find it. Or maybe the police did take it. Anyways,
But
I think you're right, actually.
Red is like, okay, but like that's not really a problem because with all the money that the Hulkster and the WWF raise, like we're set for life, basically.
With the donations,
Yeah.
from like the rich people, with the fundraising that the that the Hulkster did, and that they're set for a while. So
And
it's going to be a-okay.
And a donation from the WWF.
And the donation from the Kotaro family. That $25,000
Right.
check, which may or may not bounce. And wouldn't you know it, the A team's talking about taking going down past Mexico in this yacht to like cool off and let the government like to lose their trail or like whatever. And I'm like, getting in a yacht that like was involved in this case is probably not like the Coast Guard exists. But sure, yeah, going into international waters where they can't. When it's military crimes, I'm pretty sure like Interpol can. Doesn't matter, whatever. Anyways, they get the yacht for free for some reason, and it ends with a rather wholesome, like talking, and Face Man is all like, "Oh, did you manage to see like all of the lower deck and the upper deck? Like, there's 12 rooms."
Yeah, he mentions that to Red.
Yeah, I think her nickname's Dickie, or whatever. Can't remember, Dick, something like that. And she's like, "Oh, I'd love to see." And Hulk Hogan puts a hand on Face Man's shoulder, and he's like, "Hey, no hanky panky. She's like a sister to me." And he's all like, "Oh, I wouldn't dream about it."
No, he doesn't say no hanky panky. He's just like, hey, remember, she's like a sister to me, brother.
Yeah.
And a Face Man is like, I'll be on my best behavior, Mr. Hogan.
And in my head, I'm like, oh man, they're fucking in there.
Oh, absolutely.
Because we is a small part, but she is in the front side seats because she's friends with the Hulk at the very beginning of the episode, and they keep making eye contact with each other, Face Man and.
Well, and that's a thing with this show too, is that Face Man is always the one who gets the girl in every episode.
Yeah, and it ends with BA and Hulk walking down the pier, right? And he's like, "Well."
There's a recurring bit throughout the episode that we didn't mention where it's mentioned that B.A. Baracus has a fear of flying. That's established in the show. Like, I think, like, right in the first episode. He's afraid of flying. But, and Hogan is, like, bugging him about it throughout the episode. And Mr. T is regularly...
like, you ain't afraid of nothing.
Like, asking Hogan things that he could
I ain't
possibly
afraid of nothing.
Be afraid of.
But he's like, well, you know, there is something I'm afraid of. And now that you and I, we've been through this together and all the Vietnam stuff that definitely happened, I feel like just, you know, given all this case, I feel like I can tell you.
I'm afraid
like,
that when I'm standing on a dock next to a brother here, that I might just throw him in the water.
Yeah, and he's like, it's water, isn't it? I knew it. And he said, well, no, it's just that, you know, I'm afraid that I'm going to throw people into the water. And
What?
He's like,
I ain't going in no water.
I pity the fool who tries to throw me in water. And then they kind of like do the wrestling.
They grapple.
What's it called?
Grapple.
Yeah, they just grapple. And but eventually they give that up. And like go, and they're like, wait, no, it's like silly. There's a line, I sent it to you because I kept quoting things that I found hilarious. One sec. In the episode. Where is it? Oh, they're in the van at one point and they're worried about capsizing the boat. And BA, Mr. T is like, well, what about deadly sharks? Because instead of the non-deadly sharks, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Hulk Hogan's like, hey, I'm a good swimmer. And for some reason, that fucking made me this is on their way to the bodybuilder gym. What about deadly sharks? Hey, I'm a good swimmer. That is the funniest and stupidest line to me. What about deadly sharks? Hey, I'm a good swimmer. Because, you know, you can outswim an aquatic animal.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I'm a good swimmer. Yeah, because the danger... Because, yes, the way to survive a shark attack is to be faster than the aquatic animal.
What's going to happen is the Hulkster is going to start hulking up underwater.
Oh, the shark will have him in a headlock, and he'll start getting to his feet underwater and hulking up, and then just...
and then he'll just body slam the shark to the bottom of the ocean.
To the bottom
way
of the...
to the ocean. They won't be
and
at
then
the
it'll
bottom.
Float onto its back. Yeah,
they won't be at the bottom, but Hogan will like lift up the shark and body slam him, and he'll body slam him so hard the shark will shoot right down to the like
and slam against the ground, floor. And then turn upside down, unmoving. Fuck. But what they don't actually end up throwing each other. They call a truce, but then they're like, haha, just kidding or whatever, and then it like freeze frames on like them like playing around or like trying to push each other.
Freeze frames with credits in that very like 80s TV kind of way.
Yeah.
Do 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 do.
They're just goofing. And I think that's the longest we've talked about an episode. Like,
yeah, fuck. I think this is like this episode's probably gonna end up being like almost 2
way
hours.
longer than the actual episode, which is not something
that doesn't happen.
We haven't done that
days.
Since ye old days of TME.
Yeah.
Our other podcast. But it's
here on the Lasercomb podcast. I have a question to ask you. Cal, you just caught a random episode of the A-Team. Would you tune in again?
I wasn't born yet when this came out, but I absolutely would. This was so much better than I was expecting. And in fact, probably in Lasercomb Podcast's top 10. Like this was just good. Like, sweet. Regardless of what like of what we had to watch or whatever. Like this was just like from beginning and middle and end. Like I can't actually even think of anything bad about it. Is like either very quick or like meant to be bad.
Yeah.
Like Faceman being like, like having
With his
no idea
gun.
how to shoot a fucking gun, like shooting everywhere. But then when it shows what he's shooting at, he's like a marksman. He's hitting the like the tires of the cop cars perfectly. It's the like 10 out of 10. I would absolutely tune in next week if I had been of age when this had randomly come on the air. What about yourself? I feel like I know the answer since.
Well, I mean, I talked about how I watched this show a lot as a kid, and then reruns of it came on when I was a teenager, and I watched through that. This has actually inspired me. I think I might sail the seven seas and download an entire pack of the complete series and give it a watch.
I am actually surprised that a show from that era, given the episodic nature, could be this good. And it was, I didn't realize like it was tongue in cheek and it was, but also like this is maybe not, but I feel like this must be one of the better episodes. Maybe this is an average episode and like many of them are this good, but like this was shockingly well written.
All the yeah, and like Hulk Hogan definitely like brings something to this episode, and there's lots of like fun little wrestling cameos in the episode, like Bobby the Brain. I didn't even mention this, but like
Oh right,
Bobby the Brain Heenan you see briefly. King Kong Bundy. I think Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff is in there. I'm gonna look.
That's
up.
the first. Is that the first guy that they?
I think.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. It is. Orndorff.
I'm going to look up the IMDb page for this episode. So I want to.
So what you're saying is,
I want to call out all of the various like wrestling cameos in this episode.
so it was enjoyable enough that you may sail the seven seas for the entire, uh, series.
Yes, that is what I'm saying.
You know what? These aviators, and this mustache, I pull this off. I feel like
I think so. Yeah. So
it's a shame I can't actually grow facial hair.
Mean Gene Okerlund was in this episode. Yeah. The referee was Dave Hebner. Oh. Bobby Heenan. Greg the Hammer Valentine. That's who he fought in
at the beginning.
Yeah.
Or the okay.
Davy Boy Smith. Rick McGraw. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. Yeah, lots of wrestling cameos from that era.
Oh, okay, rad.
So that's pretty fun. Anyway, that was episode 90 of the Lasercomb podcast. If you want to support us, go to patreon.com/lasercomb, LAZORCOMB. We're starting at the $5 tier. You get to pick a show for us to review a random episode of on this very podcast. You also get the occasional commentary track, which we really need to do another one of those soon. It's been a long time.
Been a while.
Last time we did one was October.
Maybe we just replace next TME with. I mean, they're not going anywhere.
After I don't know, maybe after we're done Beast Wars second, I kind of want to take a break from watching terrible Beast Wars anime for a while.
Yeah, it's it was funny, but it is soul draining.
It's starting to become grating.
And then we can fill that slot with commentary, catch up on all those movies we keep adding to the list.
Yeah. Sounds good. So if you want to get in on that, you also get at the $5 tier, you get the weekly Patreon exclusive show, the Super Lasercomb Patreon Super Show, where we're a lot more off the cuff than we are on these podcasts. It's a little more personal.
Yeah, exactly.
A little more personal, a little
news,
more
personal
loosey-goosey.
stuff.
Yeah.
Run along, local talk.
So if you want to get
all the dirt on past guests on that now.
Yeah, sometimes.
Enemies of the show, friends of the show alike.
So if you want to get in on that, go to patreon.com/lasercomb. If you want to interact with us on the regular, join the Discord. As always, link in the description. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time with episode 91 of the Lasercomb Podcast, where we are going to be talking about another 80s TV show that had a sick vehicle and a hype theme song. We're going to be talking about Airwolf.
Show I've barely have ever heard of. I
They-
only recalled it because of Christopher talking about it.
the TV series that identified as an attack helicopter before. An Apache attack helicopter before it was cool to make that joke. It was
And
never,
before it was uncool to make
I was
the
gonna
joke.
say, I was just gonna say it was never cool to make that joke.
And yet so many of us did. Sweet summer child.
Yeah, so many incel millennial dudes.
I'm sure I did at some point. But past me was cringe.
Past all of us were cringe. That
Yeah,
is
you're a fucking liar if you say that you weren't.
that's another thing you're gonna get on the Super Lasercomb Patreon Super Show. Some harsh truths from me and Cal.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, whether you like it or not. I mean, we hope you do, but
So to figure out what episode of Airwolf we're going to watch in a couple weeks' time, I'm going to hit share screen as always. And ta-da!
Mama, my Eterna. Ooh, he's kind of cool, and he don't go back to school. My. Woo. Wait, the Airwolf is a type of helicopter?
Yes. Just trying to find the episode list on. List of episodes.
What do we got?
How many episodes do we got here?
We got 4 seasons.
80 episodes. So, going to the old trusty random number generator, one random number between 1 and 80. Here it goes.
Number 5, I'm calling it. Well, I was the closest without going over.
9, episode 9. That is a season 1 episode. I like it when it's early on in the show. Mad over
This title.
Mad over Miami. Santini goes on a mission to deliver $2 million raised by Cuban exiles as payment to free commandos who are being held
Comrades.
by a
Cuban colonel.
to free comrades. Yeah,
I like how $2 million seems like a lot of money.
who are being
helicopter's
held
worth,
by
like,
a Cuban
20.
colonel. He is later forced down and kidnapped by a group of mercenaries who also nab the money.
Ah, shit.
Firm listening post confirms Santini's disappearance, and Archangel secretly informs Hawk about the incident.
Love these nicknames.
Hawk quickly sets out to find his friend, while the exiles accuse Santini of stealing the money for himself. All right. This sounds pretty sick.
Sweet.
So we'll be back in a couple weeks' time with that. And until then, I've been The Siege, one of your hosts.
Ooh, and you better believe I'm in Pain Man NeoCal.
Thanks for listening, and we'll find the switch for you next time, dude.
Did you were the one that told me that there was a Hulk Hogan pasta restaurant.
Hulk
Or it wasn't even
Hogan's-
a restaurant, it was a
It was a kiosk in like a mall food court in Mall of America.
Pastaria?
Pastamania.
Pastamania.
Hulk Hogan's Pastamania.
A wild success, correct?
Absolutely.
That's
I
why
did-
all of us are That's why all of us are familiar with Pastamania.
It was featured on the debut episode of WCW Monday Nitro, so there's that.
There's that. You better look out because Pastamania is coming for you.
I think I'm
Make
gonna
sure
go
you
eat.
get your carbs.
I think I'm gonna go eat some pasta. Bye bye.